All right, I'm gonna be desensitizing Atlas to the saddle pad today. So I'm gonna use him side passing up to the fence to get him in position while I work with him in protected contact. So I'm just having him stay on the other side to introduce these new objects to him, just so if he gets overwhelmed, he can leave. Like, it's not a big deal. Like you can see here, right as I start to bring it past his head, he's like, oh, nope, don't like that there. I want to keep my nose on it. So I'll let him touch it with his nose. And I'm just going to wait for him to put his face on it. And then I'll click and feed him. So I probably should have gone a little bit slower there and just clicked for him touching it in front of his neck. So not be so fixated on him touching it with his neck. Because same with when I first started with the surcingle, I'm very like, okay, the saddle pad goes here, the surcingle goes here, and trying to put it on their back right away. And I needed to really slow down, break it down for him, and make sure he has confidence with it before I just shove it on his back. So having him touch with his face, I need to do that a little bit more and then start moving it down there. So I just want to present it, and ideally he'll lean toward it and target it with his neck or the side of his face. And then sometimes I can kind of meet him in the middle a little bit and just kind of close the gap if he's staying there nicely. So he's letting me touch here. You can tell he's a little bit worried about it. There's like, we're dragging in the background and it's a little bit rainy, so it's a little bit of a weird atmosphere, but not too bad. I probably, again, should have kind of spent a bit more time up on the front of his neck. But the idea is to have him target it with his nose, and then target it with his face, and then target it with his neck, and then move down to his shoulder, and then you start touching him with it on his shoulder, and then clicking and feeding for each time that you touch him with the pad. So you can see he jumped a little bit there. He's still a bit afraid of it, because every time he's moving, he's not okay with it. He's like, I need to come back, and I feel okay touching it with my nose. So that's where he's kind of at this point. But I have that cue. I can bring him back, let him touch it with his nose, kind of go back a step, and see if he'll let me touch it on his shoulder here. And he kind of leaned into it that time. That was pretty good. Especially when your horse is worried, it's good to allow them to touch the object. Like there, he targeted it, he kind of leaned forward with it. I only do that up to the shoulder though. I don't have him like hip target a saddle pad or anything like that. But it just builds confidence, gets him used to it. And then I'm not just forcing him to stand there and have the saddle pad on him or whatever object I'm using. But probably the theme with a lot of my videos is I need to slow down a bit. So make sure he's confident with it. That was really nice. I probably could have made the pad smaller, but he didn't flinch, so that's good. You don't want the flinching. I'm pointing it out so that you notice where it's taking place, but you really don't want that at all. That looked good again too. You want the horse to remain relaxed and not flinch and be happy that the pad is there and want to interact with it, want to associate it with positive things. So this looks better. Touching him here on the back with the pad. That looks really nice. I have him change sides. I think I went to go get food there and then I had to cut that out. So I went to go refill my food and then I had to put him back in position here, and then we're just gonna keep going. That looks good. Again, he can have his neck a little bit lower, a little bit more relaxation, but overall not too bad. That looks nice on his hips. And I'm just going to do this like his whole body. So I'm going to start on the nose, work my way down to the neck, shoulders, top line, and then I'm going to do a little bit on the legs. The legs aren't super important, but I like to just make sure that they're used to objects all around them and underneath them. You know, if a saddle slips or something like under his belly there, that looked good. That he's okay with those objects. He's not freaking out about it. So that looks good. And the part about the protective contact here is I can do all these things, and if he's worried, like, he's just gonna leave. Which is the goal of working at Liberty, is you're giving them the option to have that flight instinct kicked in first and leave. But there is an occasional where the horse is just worried and kicks out, you know, or jumps or something like that. And that's what we're just trying to prevent here. So if he leaves, he's telling me like I've gone too far. So I have to go back and fix it, which is very obvious with protective contact. And the more you work, you're going to catch those things before the horse leaves, and that is the goal. But you will definitely see it with this. and with the Mustangs, and that's what they've taught me. But the other thing is that I want to do the whole saddling process from here, and make sure it's as positive as possible. I might not always use the round pen panels, but I definitely want just a little bit of a barrier between the two of us. So here I've had him change the other side, and we're just doing the same process. Just because it's a different side does not mean that he remembers what happened on the opposite side. So I start again at his nose, and then I work my way backward. And he is always a little bit calmer on this side. I think just by maybe handling him a little too fast, he's a little bit wary on the other side. But again, probably should have went a little bit slower, worked on the face, worked my way down the neck, and then to the shoulder. But he is being nice and relaxed here. I had to speed through this a little bit because he's just kind of looking around at something. So, but if he needs to look at something, that's fine. I'm going to let him. And when he comes back to be focused, I will click and feed him for bringing his attention back to me. And then we'll go back to our lesson. And it is important, like, I don't do a lot of work when it's raining just because I don't want it to be wet is one of the reasons, but mostly because the camera will get full of water. Like, even if it's a light rain, there'll be raindrops on the camera and it'll be really hard to see. At this day, it was blowing the opposite way, and it wasn't really cold. It was just a little kind of a mist. But it is important to work your horses in those different weather scenarios, because if later on you needed to trailer him in an emergency and it was raining, the horse might be kind of worried about that because they're like, I don't do anything when it rains. And that sounds like a small kind of dumb thing, but horses pick up on those things and you wouldn't think of it otherwise. Like, if you load up early for a horse show, the horse is like, oh crap, like now they're worried because they think they're going somewhere when you usually ride in like the afternoon. So just kind of mixing up the time of day you work and the weather you work in within reason is important to the training as well. So that's why you see sometimes I'm in the rain, but not very often. But not often is it a rain where it's just like a light rain. Usually it's like a downpour. So that would be another reason why. But overall, this looks pretty good. I like to do the same little steps on each side and make sure he's okay with those things. And try to do this in this place so it's like right on the front of my round pen, like the gate's right to the left. And then I will move on to other places. So I won't do that a lot. Like, I will move to maybe a few panels down or maybe a different fence or something. And he's spooking at something. I think the tractor's dragging in the background, so he got a little worried. He's a little tense. I'm going to put him back into position, kind of have him figure it out here. Because now he's just getting a little bit worried after that trigger kind of set him off. Yeah, you can see the tractor in the background. And then once he gets back into position, I'm just going to reward him. But I don't do a ton of protective contact. I'm going to do this a couple times, make sure he's completely relaxed. Then we'll move to a different location also with protective contact, and then I will go in there and work with that. But the round pen just seems to work well, so we do that. And he was getting a little tight and a little nervous because of the rain, the weather, and the dragging. So we just go slow and kind of end him on a good note.